Hi everyone, this is Michaela Robinson from the Garden Club of Alexandria, here to talk to you about the floral design type assemblage. First, let's talk about what is assemblage. According to the Garden Club of Virginia, an assemblage is a three-dimensional, creative, abstract design combining disparate found objects and plant material into a unified whole. Influenced by artists Picasso and Braque's early prototypical assemblages, which incorporated a variety of objects from everyday life, flower arrangers adopted the style and made them unique with the addition of plant material. That's a lot to take in, so we're going to break this down into components, starting with a discussion of the early artist renditions of assemblage. First, here is a piece by Pablo Picasso made in 1912 called Still Life with Share Caning. This is a mixed media collage in the Cubist style. It's painted on an oilcloth tablecloth fabric, and it uses actual chair caning and rope, as well as newspaper, in addition to drawn and painted elements. The interesting thing about this piece is it moves outside of the two-dimensional realm into three dimensions by combining these found objects. As you can see, the objects overlap and intermingle, creating a layered and textured design. Next is another assemblage created by George Braque in 1924 called Still Life of a Table Gillette. This is a collage created by layering objects over a drawing with newspaper clippings, tableware, which you can see drawn in the charcoal in the background, as well as overlapping on the newspaper clippings and wood textures. This was a commentary on the interrelationship between everyday objects and represented the complexities of life in a modern world at this time in 1924. We're going to take these concepts and move it into our version of assemblage for floral design. Each of these slides is going to show a different version of a floral design in the assemblage style. Some are much more complex, but we're going to break these down and actually talk specifically about our schedule to make it digestible for you. First, let's talk about the characteristics of assemblage. Assemblages are three-dimensional and combine disparate found objects with plant materials into a unified whole. Several unattached parts or parts fastened together to form a single unit. You can see in the photo on the right that we've got mechanical components and grids, metal, plant material, maybe some sieves and gears that are all combined into this cohesive unit. These items are juxtaposed in a non-realistic, non-naturalistic, non-representational way. In other words, they don't really have anything to do with the original intent of how they were used. The relationship of objects in floral design assemblage should be created through the unique elements of design with both the placement of the plant material and the found objects. Another unique element of assemblage is we really shouldn't perceive any identifiable containers. The floral material should be fully integrated into the design. Next, let's talk a little bit about found objects. Found objects are defined as objects from everyday life. They are not produced specifically as art or for decorative purposes. They are not, the found objects you would use within your assemblage are not related to each other or previously used together. So in other words, this appears to be sort of a random grouping or assemblage of items. Found items may be man-made, such as metal, plastic, rope, wire, electrical or mechanical parts. As you can see in the photo on the right, there are records. It looks like maybe a file from an office, a colander, and then the plant materials are tomatoes and florals. Um, Found objects may also be natural objects, such as shells, stones, or wood, as you saw in the Braque and the Picasso pieces. The objects may be painted, but they should remain recognizable and not contrived. According to the Garden Club of Virginia guidelines, the types of assemblage could be purely sculptural, It could be displayed in a niche, could be mounted to a panel, or a combination of above. You can see in the photo of on the right, this assemblage is actually mounted on a panel. Next, we're going to talk a little bit about our schedule inspiration for September 2025, which is themed fall pastimes. In the schedule, it's stated your creativity is key as you incorporate a variety of elements to convey your favorite fall pastime. Think found objects that unite to convey your vision. Consider a fall tailgate party as an inspiration and bring it to life in this creation. And I've just attached a photo of a staged tailgate party, which you can see. While there are elements that are related, there are pieces of this you might be able to pick out and integrate into your own assemblage design. For instance, there's a pot, there's a football helmet, there's some copper mugs. You also see plant material in this, but it is not inherently an assemblage simply because the objects are staged in a realistic, naturalistic setting as opposed to something that's non-representational. So we're going to talk now a little bit about my design, which is inspired by fall pastimes and a pseudo tailgate party. I started with these found objects: a corkscrew, a phone charging cable, a newspaper, a paper plate, and jute rope. My plant and organic material were a $5 mixed bouquet from the grocery store, parsley, apples, and a piece of cut crepe myrtle branch, which technically is also a found object. Now we're going to move on to how this all came together for me. So here's a photo of my assemblage, and I'm titling it Picnic at the Barns at Wolf Trap. As you can see, this is a sculptural three-dimensional design. It's abstract, combining my disparate found objects and plant materials into a unified whole. In this case, all of these items are something you might find at your tailgate party or your picnic, but the way that they're combined is in a non-related way. So in other words, I've got the corkscrew poking into an apple instead of a wine bottle. I've got a phone charger cable that of course you're going to find at any tailgate party or picnic because we all have cell phones which complicate our lives, but I've got it wrapped around this crepe myrtle branch in a way that you would never use it. And I've got the wrapped up newspaper that actually advertises the venue, the Barns at Wolf Trap, also tied and attached to a branch of the crepe myrtle. So these unattached parts are fastened together to form a single unit. As you can see, they're all placed and fastened so they're combined as a single whole. They're, as I discussed previously, they're juxtaposed in a non-realistic, non-representational, non-naturalistic way. In other words, this is not a naturally occurring phenomena or a way you would set up anything that you might actually find at your picnic or tailgate party. You can also see that there are no identifiable containers. So in this case, it was important for me to pick floral design elements and plants that could survive without water or put them in tubes. But you just need to be careful about that so that your materials stay fresh, and that your containers are not visible if you have them. I'm going to dig in a little bit deeper into the specifics of my thematic details. So here are these unrelated picnic items juxtaposed in that non-representational way. That corkscrew in the apple, that charging cable wrapped around the wood branch. And here is a close-up of the integration of plant material with found objects. So I've tucked a bloom into the rolled up newspaper advertisement for the Barns Wolf Trap. All of our floral designs should have elements and principles that come together to create a unified whole. And that's specifically called out in the assemblage description as the relationship of objects created through the unique elements of design. So just to call out a few in this particular design, we've got line, which you can see that's created by the red cord that wraps around the branch itself, the rolled newspaper clipping, and the corkscrew. All of these things are providing a rhythm and a visual path through design. We have balance. Balance is created by the placement of the red apples, the white florals, and all the other elements that combine to give it visual weight and an asymmetrical balance. In other words, this is not symmetrical, it's not the same on both sides, but it's balanced in a way that it's a visual unified whole. This one's a little bit tricky in terms of balance because it does have some precariousness to the design with the way that the corkscrew is hanging off the apple. And that was an intentional juxtaposition for me, just to re-emphasize the non-representational aspect of this design. Another principle of design is contrast. And here you can see I've created contrast by using a variety of colors, such as red and white, and also using a variety of textures, such as the rough wood, the shiny apples, and the shiny metal to create visual interest. So that's my design. I'm going to talk a little bit now about statement of intent. This is something that you will often see in a floral design show, and it's requested as part of the schedule. You will find that this is a helpful way to explain your design, particularly when you have an abstract design like assemblage. This month and several other months in our garden club schedule actually require a statement of intent. So I wanted to just talk a little bit about what that might look like for us. A statement of intent is defined as statement of intent should clearly state how the exhibit relates to the theme of the class or show and how you are interpreting that theme. It should be brief and easy to understand, using clear and descriptive language, and no more than 25 words, typed or printed on an index card. If you look closely at this photo, it's a little bit different than the last photo of my design that I showed you. And I just wanted to give you a different angle, knowing that this is a three-dimensional design and that's how it's going to be judged. It really should be judged at least from 3 sides, if not 4. So this turns it and gives you a little bit of a different view. But you will find back to statement of intent that 25 words goes very quickly. And so I usually work with something that gets right to the heart of the matter. I think of it more like a haiku than a statement. So here we go. My statement of intent for Picnic at the Barns at Wolf Trap is charged up and ready to enjoy a picnic before the performance. And I think that integrates all the aspects. It kind of gives a reason for being for the charging cord, and it explains that these are all elements you might find in a picnic, which gives them that unification that you don't necessarily see because we know assemblage is looking for these found objects that are not made to go together and that they're in that non-representational, non-related way. So I hope that helps resolve some of the mysteries of assemblage for you, and I look forward to seeing what you all come up with.